Hello, everybody. I was giving a mate of mine, an architect, a dig out there recently. What he wanted to do was he had purchased an OS digital map of a particular site that he's interested in, and he wanted to know how he was going to get the OS map into his Revit project so that he could set up the site and start modeling. And there's a few tricky little things involved in this, so I thought I'd share them with you. Now, your OS map, when you purchase it the from the OS, will come in DWG format, and it is important to check a few things before we get started, before we import this into Revit. Okay, so it is worth noting that the OS map will come geolocated. So if you don't move it on the screen within AutoCAD or do anything else with it, leave it as in the position that it's in, because you can establish the coordinates, the real world coordinates, by hitting ID on the keyboard, then picking a point anywhere, and your X and Y coordinates will come up. That's your eastings and northings. So I put in a little text box here, and I've written those coordinates in there. And I've done a double checker over here on the corner of this building too. Always worthwhile doing that. I've drawn in a little north arrow there because, again, OS maps will come with the top side here will always be north, and then following on from south, west, and east. But if you draw in a straight arrow indicating the north point, it'll come in very handy when we pop this into Revit. The other thing I would always check with OS maps is I will take a look at the orientation. This is kind of like a front elevation, if you like. But what I'm checking here is to make sure that all the line work is actually on the Z0 coordinate. And I know from bitter experience, I can tell you that some OS maps come in with 3D information, and that can cause havoc when you import this into Revit. Sometimes it'll disappear and you don't know why, because it's gone in below the level that you've imported it into. Okay, so once you've got that prepped and ready to go, I'm going to close this down now. I'm going to save all of that, and I'll come over into Revit. Now, I've opened up a fresh new project here. I'm in the site plan, and I'm in the insert command. I'm going to link CAD. And I need to find that here. Okay, so pop that into my local disk. And there's the part block. And here now you need to look down here at the parameters. So I always like to bring these in black and white. I don't like the colors, particularly the yellow against the white background, it gets lost. Remember as well that OS maps are survey maps, so they come in on the basis of a meter. So import them on the basis of a meter. That's important, okay? Meter units. You're going to bring this in manual center. Okay, now I know that sounds a little bit contrary, but that's the way we're going to do this. And if you want the view only in the site plan, you'll check this here, current view only, but I like to have this in the ground floor plan too. Uncheck the correct lines, because there are some lines that are slightly off axis, but they're correct. You don't want Revit to correct those. And we leave it at orient to view. Okay, now, there you go. So it's on my cursor at the moment, and I'm going to pop it in to that point there. Okay, now, once you've got it in and you're happy enough with it, what we can do is hit VV on the keyboard. That brings us into the visibility graphics. We're going into imported categories, and here's our block here. All right, now I always like to half tone it. Apply and OK, and that gives me a kind of a nice light gray tone against the modeling that I'll be doing. So it'll always kind of sit in the background there. All right, so we leave that at the first video, and I'll show you how we're going to organize this within Revit from within video number 2.